With the Celtics taking home the trophy last season, teams are making moves to challenge the throne. After going with the East, we will be picking one X-Factor from teams in West in this video. He might not always be the superstar, but would be crucial enough for the team's success. After taking the first seed last season, the OKC Thunder wasted no time improving further. One of the biggest acquisitions was getting Alex Caruso from the Chicago Bulls. Over the years, Caruso earned himself the reputation as an excellent defender. He also became a very reliable outside shooter. Last season Caruso shot 40.8% from three, on his way to average double-digit points first time in his career. Defensively, he always brings that intensity. In less than 30 minutes played per game, he was able to average 1.7 steals and 1 block with the Bulls. OKC gave up Josh Giddey, who does not really fit the offensive scheme. Welcoming Caruso would improve the spacing drastically. It would still be determined whether Caruso will start for the Thunder, but his presence defensively and the ability to knock down threes would be very crucial if the Thunder hopes to go even further. To have the luxury to shuffle between Dort, Wallace, and Caruso as a defensive guard ensure the suffocating defense keeps on for all 48 minutes. After losing KCP to the Magic, the Denver Nuggets are in need for one of their shooting guards to step up. Christian Braun would be the obvious choice. Braun might not have met Denver's expectation on his development offensively, but he had shown great ability in the defensive end last year's playoffs. Substituting for Anthony Edwards' defensive assignment, Braun actually did a good job in containing the Ant-Man, forcing him into tough shots. Braun was mostly hesitant in taking outside shots, but he still hit 38% of his shots in limited attempts. He struggled a bit in playoffs in terms of making shots, but his defense was something to cheer about. Braun obviously is younger than KCP and has more athleticism. This upcoming season would be the chance for him to showcase his ability and prove that he deserves to start. The Timberwolves just made a huge trade giving away longtime Wolves Karl-Anthony Towns. It indicated 2 key points. 1, the Wolves are concerned about the potential financial burden, and 2, they have utmost confidence in Naz Reid's growth. Fresh off the 6th Man of the Year honor, Naz Reid showed no sign of stopping. He remained as the integral part of the Wolves' offense in playoffs, providing the sparks off the bench and allowed the Wolves to lay a 3-big combo when facing Denver. His ability to score, put the ball on the floor, hit threes, and play defense gives the Wolves the flexibility to move on from Towns. Earning 4 times less than Towns makes him an easy option to pick. It is not set in stone that Julius Randle will start at 4. Reid might be an intriguing option to take over the spot too. If Reid can keep his efficiency when his responsibility hikes, the T-Wolves would have another version of Big Trio to leverage. The Utah Jazz are now in rebuild mode searching for their future, which allows different young players with opportunities to develop their games. Taylor Hendricks is an intriguing prospect who got himself a starting spot after All-Star break last season. His long frame pairing with his ability to knock down shots and defend made him a valuable option at the wing position. In the 23 games he started after the All-Star break, Hendricks was hitting over 40% of his threes while playing good defense. Hendricks was able to offer a little bit of everything on the court as he claimed the starting spot until the season ended. If he can improve further on his decision-making and the ability to make play off the dribble, the starting 3 spot would be surely him to take. The Jazz have plenty of offensive options in Markkanen, Keyonte George, and Jordan Clarkson. Hendricks won't need to worry much about putting the ball into the hole. Instead, his ability to do all the dirty work and hit open threes would be crucial for the Jazz's long-term success. It is safe to say Scoot Henderson failed most of the expectations in his rookie campaign. With all the hype surrounding, he did not perform as well and was hindered by injuries too. The Blazers see him as the future point guard when they decided to give away Damian Lillard, but it was only late in the season that Henderson finally showed some glimpse of his talent. In the last 14 games of the season, Henderson averaged around 19 points, 8 assists, and almost shooting 40% from 3. He took a relatively high volume of shots for a point guard, and his consistency was still one of the concerns going forward. Henderson would also need to be more careful with the ball. He averaged 3.4 turnovers last season and over 5 in the last 14 games. He for sure has the talent to be a good combo guard, but he would need to get better in creating his own shots and making good decisions. The Blazers have abundant of big men to pair with him. If Henderson can focus more on playmaking, Blazers would be a fun team to watch going forward. But first, Henderson would need to evolve to what the Blazers anticipated him would be. The LA Clippers is moving forward from packing the team with star players. This offseason, the Clippers had been acquiring players with specific functions. Derrick Jones Jr., who had been a spark in last year's playoffs for the Dallas Mavericks, landed in LA. Jones always been considered as a high-flying wing, but he did make himself an outside threat this last playoffs, hitting 37% of his shots from downtown in the playoffs. His athleticism and length allowed him to defend at a high level. Jones often got the assignment to guard the opposing team's best wing players in the playoffs. He might still not be a very consistent three-point shooter, but he had been good enough to be a threat and couldn't be left wide open. Jones will definitely get a bigger role in LA with the departure of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard being so cautious about his health. The Clippers have a lot of guys who can facilitate, and a slasher like Jones will benefit from them. If Jones can elevate his game more, it would provide the much-needed stability for the Clippers. The Phoenix Suns are entering next season with high pressure to succeed. After getting swept in first round last year, the Suns did not hesitate in getting rid of Frank Vogel. Even with the brilliance of the Big Three, the Suns couldn't take the steps forward. Grayson Allen had been a bright spot last season. He was crazily hot from deep the entire season, shooting over 46% from deep on 6 attempts per game. He also averaged a career-high 13.5 points while hitting almost 50% of his shots. His offensive excellence did not extend to the playoffs, as he suffered from an injury which held him out the last 2 games. But when we look at the regular season, Allen managed to have 7 games with 8 or more threes. With the star trio grabbing most of the attention, you always need someone like Grayson Allen to hit open shots. The Suns also welcomed his former coach, Mike Budenholzer, who is elite in creating offense for Huerter. Grayson Allen would be a key part going forward. He might not start in this stacked roster, but he surely would provide that huge firepower the Suns would need. The Lakers were not as active in the free agency market, and obviously everyone's eyes would be on the Bronny James storyline. The Lakers, however, would still need to remain competitive to leverage LeBron's final years. I would think Rui Hachimura would be a key part to that. He's definitely not on the level with Anthony Davis and LeBron, but his ability to create his own shot and hold his ground on defense make him a valuable presence. He was actually hitting a high clip on 3-point shots last season, averaging 42% from behind the arc. His frame allowed him to play both the 3 and 4, and this gave the Lakers flexibility to move LeBron to other positions. Hachimura is versatile enough to play multiple positions and is always a threat in offense. He might not be a stellar defender, but we can see in playoffs time he had the ability to play lockdown post defense. He is one of the younger guys on the roster and for sure still has room to improve. With all pressures lying mostly on D'Lo and Reeves, Hachimura sometimes is seen as a sidekick who could quietly contribute. If the Lakers can explore more options with him, the Lakers would be diversified in terms of offensive outputs. The Warriors lost a longtime veteran in Klay Thompson, but do have some young and exciting prospects on the roster. Jonathan Kuminga is one of them, who had been quite good offensively when given the chances. Last season, Kuminga raised his scoring average for 6 extra points. Steve Kerr was quite hesitant to provide him stable minutes, but during the limited playing time early in the season, he showcased his ability to score at will. He might not be a great outside scorer, but his explosiveness and ability to score at the rim make him a talented offensive player. With Steph getting older, someone from the Warriors need to take more responsibility to score. The Warriors might not be ready to offer him a max deal, but it's hard to think they don't see the potential in him. The Warriors have to either put trust in Kuminga or just let him thrive somewhere else. It depends on how Steve Kerr shuffles the minutes, but Kuminga surely needs to be part of the core rotation for them to win games. The Kings welcomed DeMar DeRozan to the roster this offseason, adding another dynamic scorer to the team. However, I always believe Kevin Huerter is playing a dominant role in their success. Huerter had been known for his 3-point shooting throughout his career, and was always a threat in his playing times with the Hawks and the Kings. He did see a slight drop in percentage-wise last season, only hitting 36% of his threes, but his career average is above 38%, so look for a bounce-back year from him. With Fox, DeRozan, and Sabonis all have their ways to score, Huerter would be a key piece that provide the much-needed spacing. I would anticipate more drive and kick action involving Huerter and also these off-screens which generate catch-and-shoot opportunities. He had a relatively down year last season, and I truly believe in regression to mean. He would shine again in his role and be able to make his name as a lethal sniper again. The Dallas Mavericks were able to go all the way to the NBA Finals, ended up losing to a dominant Boston team. The Luka magic definitely contributes to the Mavs' success, but the uprising Derrick Lively was also a bright spot last season. He might not be the most offensive talented big man, might not be an extremely effective defender, but him relentlessly running the floor had created lots of extra possessions for the Mavericks. He was averaging almost 3 offensive rebounds per game, over a block each game, and an outstanding 74.7 field goal percentage in the regular season. Most of his scoring opportunities came from assists of his teammates and the extra possessions he generated by fighting for the boards. You might not see him working on the low post or taking mid-range jumpers, but he is valuable enough for the Mavericks to win games. Obviously, if he can add extra dimensions to his game, such as improving on his mid-range games or hitting a higher rate on free throws, that would bring exponential advantages to the Mavs. He would be the key player to develop moving forward, and having Gafford as a positive competition would benefit that too. The Pelicans are hovering between mediocrity for the last few seasons even though they have a talented roster. Some parts are due to injuries, and some parts are these players not meshing well together. Zion Williamson played a career-high 70 games last season but only ended up getting injured in the play-in game. Until now, we still haven't been able to see a playoff version of Zion. We heard great news of him losing weight and getting into top shape this offseason. Will he be able to showcase his dominance further? We all knew that he is unstoppable when healthy. It's always injuries that held him back. With a 6'6" height, Zion was always playing undersized at power forward. He didn't take much threes, and his offensive games are mostly inside the painted area. He is averaging almost 60% in field goals throughout his career, but it would be beneficial if he could add a few mid-range games into his arsenal. Taking all the physical hit every time to score will wear him down at the end of the season. If Zion can change his game a bit and improve his availability, the Pelicans could still be a dark horse in the West given all the Ingram trade rumors. The Houston Rockets had a group of young talents who possessed different skill sets. They were able to reach 41 games last season and almost took a play-in spot. One of the young players was Whitmore. He was only a 20th pick mostly due to injury concerns, but his scoring ability could be one of the best out of last year's draft class. In limited playing time, he was able to pour in 12.3 points per game last season. He was still affected by injuries, but he for sure was able to fire from all cylinders when given the chance. His athleticism and the ability to score from anywhere from the court make him a dangerous option off the bench. With the mix of talents and veteran the Rockets currently have, it would be safe to assume Whitmore would come off the bench mostly next season. He was still average on defense and might not overtake the positions from players like Dillon Brooks and Jalen Green yet. But the fact that he just turned 20 not too long ago, there is a lot of time for Whitmore to develop. I anticipate he fight himself into the rotation and be able to contribute night in and night out. If Whitmore can ascend as a top-tier scorer, the Rockets would not be an easy team to beat moving forward. You couldn't imagine how many players the Memphis Grizzlies were shuffling around the roster last season. They actually saw more than 30 players taking minutes throughout the season due to all the injuries that kept players out for extended period. Marcus Smart was one of them who played only 20 games last season. The first impression of trading Smart was to further expand the defense capability of the young Grizzlies team. Pairing with Jaren Jackson Jr., who also won DPOY before, the Grizzlies could have a death lineup on defense. Smart was able to display his ability to knock down shots and play defense in his limited appearance, but he hadn't played a game since January. Having a healthy Marcus Smart would be a welcoming sight for the Grizzlies. Memphis did develop some nice players last season, and it might force Smart to come off the bench. It's hard to think pushing Bane to the 3 spot is a good idea. Having the luxury to have your former DPOY coming off the bench would create a lot of problems against the opposing team. If Smart can return to his healthy form, his outside shooting and defensive tenacity would help the Grizzlies a lot next season. It was an extremely entertaining season for the Spurs last year. Wemby showcased his generational talent and proved that he deserved to be the unanimous first pick. But before Wemby joined the Spurs, Keldon Johnson actually showed some upsides in his game. It was only in playing out of positions in favor of development of guys like Sohan and Wembanyama that lead to slight drop in his performance. With his height at 6'5", it would be best he plays more at small forward than in power forward. His ability to make and take outside shots and also the ability to attack the basket create diversified dimension in his offensive game. Look at the season 22-23, he was averaging 22 points a game. It proved that he has the potential to be great, but it would be on him to do it consistently and more efficiently. The Spurs welcomed a few veterans this offseason in Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes. I would hope Johnson could learn from them and be able to keep his starting position going forward. If Keldon Johnson can arise as a second option next to Wembanyama, the Spurs will have a lot more possibilities moving forward. And there you have it, the X Factors for the West. Let me know which players you think would help your team. Don't forget to subscribe for more basketball contents. This is Basketball Convos. Bye for now.